Fairmont Crest never stays peaceful for more than a single sunny day. Every balcony draped in flowers is only a thin fabric hiding the fissures of trust and ambition. There, the fates of 4 people, Bill, Dani, Haley, and Andre, are woven tight like a sumptuous tapestry that has already begun to fray. On the surface are charity galas, magazine shoots, and smiles clinking glasses with wine expensive enough to bribe memory. Beneath it is the bitter almond scent of the cocktail Haley mixes with her own hands for Bill, the insurance statement stacked neatly in Randy's safe, the prenuptial agreement with fine print almost no one reads, and a Las Vegas getaway time has warped into an alibi for a hasty marriage between Dani and Andre. The story starts with a simple misalignment. Bill thinks he has found a safe harbor in Haley after all his breakups with Dani. Dani imagines that marrying Andre is the only way to lock the old door and imprison a heart that refuses to heal. But those assumptions, like paper backdrops in a studio, tear at the slightest breeze, exposing the system of pulleys behind them. People, schemes, motives, and fears. Haley arrives like the first rain of the season. Fresh, gentle, attentive to small details that make a weary Bill want to believe. Yet that gentleness has a blueprint, a rhythm, a set of steps. At every phase, Randy appears as the kindly relative on hand to help with paperwork, insurance, and financial advice. Dinners take on an almond note stronger than usual. Vitamins help Bill sleep more deeply to reduce stress. Accidental schedule changes ensure he is absent from the office exactly when the audit department needs his signature. Everything is designed as a chain of tweaks so small no single detail can serve as a sledgehammer, but added together, they loosen the hinges on Bill's very life. The first time, he feels a crushing fatigue and a heavy head after a glass of red. The second, he collapses in the bathroom when his vision suddenly goes black. The third, he nearly drives into the divider during a violent wave of dizziness. Each time, Haley holds him close, wipes his sweat, calls a private doctor, and promises to take even better care of him. It is precisely that devotion that becomes the most dangerous veil. Bill does not let down his guard because he is foolish, but because people want to believe in the hand that soothes them after a storm. The problem is that hand is counting the steps to the day the payout arrives. If Haley were just a crude gold digger, Bill might have noticed. What blinds him is the feeling of being needed, leaned on, tenderly rescued after years of being tossed between passion and hurt with Dani. Then the pieces start to slip out of place. A purchase order for pure cyanide that Randy places under a shell company gets held by the bank over an error. A blood test returns showing trace levels of toxins in Bill's system that cannot be explained by ordinary sleeping pills. An email from the insurer uses the phrase contestability period, indicating someone has hurried to increase the benefit during the time most likely to trigger investigation. A hallway camera records Haley leaving the kitchen at midnight wearing rubber gloves, and a bartender remembers perfectly that she asked for extra almond in Bill's cocktail. A signature scent anyone who has read a basic toxicology primer knows to avoid. None of this is enough to cuff anyone on the spot, but it is enough to clear the fog from Bill's eyes. What stuns him most is not the possibility of being targeted, but the question that gnaws deeper. Did love ever exist, or was it all a script Haley and Randy staged from the beginning? Meanwhile, Dani and Andre's story slides toward its breaking point with a logic of its own. They married in a drunken night in Las Vegas, leaning on each other like 2 people running from names carved into their ribs. Dani cannot stop thinking of Bill, and Andre does not hide the way his heart stutters around Ashley, the kind nurse with a fiancé named Derek who is pretending to be paralyzed to keep her like a jailer dressed as a victim in the early days. Dani tries to play the reasonable wife, juggling work and feigning stability. Andre tries to be a decent husband, patching over cracks and smothering household trouble. But decent and stable are bandages slapped over a fault line. The more you pull, the more they peel, the more you touch, the more it hurts. Andre catches Dani lingering over an old shirt Bill once gave her. Dani notices Andre pause a beat too long over the coffee Ashley prefers. They do not need to shout. Silence is the thing that makes you want to smash everything in the room. When rumors about Haley and Randy begin to slither through town, Dani stiffens. She does not know whether to be glad that the man who once betrayed her may be paying a price, or afraid that an unhealed wound will be ripped open again. She remembers trying to snuff out Bill's name with a thoughtless wedding, but the heart refuses orders. Whenever she sees Andre brooding over news of Ashley and Derek, she wonders whether she is only acting the part of a wife in someone else's script. Andre, with the pride of a man who hates to lose, is driven to a crossroads. Step back and let Dani return to Bill, bruising his ego, or push forward to keep Dani, turning love into possession rather than truth. When Derek's secret begins to surface, a therapy room recording, a rehab specialist dragged into an internal review, a spasm control prescription altered by hand, Ashley reels. She realizes what she thought was devotion has only been an intricate chain. Her compassion was exploited to turn an engagement into a prison. At this moment, Andre becomes a shoulder studded with 1,000 needles. A touch hurts, but it is still the place Ashley wants to lean. He is no savior. He is a flawed man with a loveless marriage, choosing a line between empathy and betrayal. One windy afternoon on the porch, Bill finally arranges the pieces. Bank statements, emails, camera footage, medical notes, and the look in Haley's eyes when the plan snags. A shard of cold light before she can pull down the curtain of kindness. He is no longer the man who suffers in silence. It is time to play a new hand, not only to survive but to test his own substance. Does he regret betraying Dani, or is he merely enraged at being betrayed by a version of himself, Haley? The question makes him dig through the past, laying out the days with Dani on the table. Hurried letters never sent, old photos never deleted, the times he chose the easy thing over the right thing. He understands that if he goes back to Dani only out of fear of abandonment, he will retrace the steps that broke them. But if he goes back because he has recognized the value of trust after witnessing deception rot from within, that is a different story, harder, but truer. At the same time, Dani stands before the mirror and sees her life as Andre's wife as if through a fogged pane. Behind her is a woman not finished with her past. Ahead is a narrow road sloping down to where Fairmont Crest hums with new contracts. She fears being seen as weak if she opens the door to Bill. She fears betraying herself if she continues a marriage born of flight. She knows every choice will cast a shadow that will follow her for years. After piecing together the clues around Derek and Ashley, Andre begins to look at Dani with the clarity of someone who has understood. Clinging out of pride will drag them all into the mire. Letting go out of respect may be the only exit that preserves anyone's face. The decision does not arrive in a rousing moment. It comes like daybreak crawling up a wall, quietly, inch by inch, until, before you realize it, the entire room has changed color. The turning point comes the day the insurer demands an in-person meeting for verification. Randy fumbles over mismatched signatures. Haley panics and invents new details. Bill, curiously calm, suggests postponing the meeting to gather all the documents. In truth, he has already transferred everything to a private attorney with instructions to retain leverage. He stands at a fork. He can hand it all to the police and let blind justice take its course. Or he can use the truth as a bargaining blade, forcing Haley and Randy to sign an agreement to leave his life, return what they stole, and allow him to finish the story with at least some measure of control. Across town, Dani and Andre sit facing each other in a kitchen gone too quiet. They realize they do not need another fight to legitimize a breakup. What is cracking is not a conflict fixable with promises. It is a misplacement of hearts at the starting line. They agree on final kindnesses. Speak respectfully. Do not smear each other to friends. Do not weaponize each other's secrets. Then they rise, each carrying their share, not looking back because they know a glance would drag them into a few more weeks of the wrong life. On her own front, Ashley finishes the hardest task. Letting Derek go, moving out of an apartment as stifling as a hospital ward, facing the first days of freedom with hands still shaking from post-control syndrome. Andre appears like a chair set in the perfect spot after a long surgery. Not a bed, Not a crutch, just a place to sit and breathe and remember that your body belongs to you. They do not rush. They learn to speak less, to act cleanly, to let time, the thing they once squandered, do its work. As for Bill, one late afternoon he stands at Dani's gate. He brings no flowers, only a confession that does nothing for his image. He chose ease and illusion. He let the fear of loneliness steer him. He believed love could be substituted by convenience. He also speaks of the humiliation of realizing he had been made a pawn, of the anger aimed not at Haley but at himself. The man who saw the red flags and still closed his eyes. Dani listens and does not hurry to forgive. She knows his effort is real, but the truth still lacks one condition. He must return justice its share. She does not want a survivor by compromise. She needs a man who can place the period in the right spot even if the price is a storm. Bill nods and leaves her door with a resolve now given shape. That night he sends all the evidence to the police and alerts the insurer. Haley is summoned. Randy's office is searched. The coordinating emails burst out of the inbox like a shattered hive. Haley blanches, but what staggers her more is the sense that she did love him, briefly, inexplicably, when she pulled him from the bathtub during the second collapse. When, in a haze, he spoke her name like a plea. But a moment cannot redraw the frame. The plan is still the plan, and the signatures are still the signatures. In court, everything moves to the rigid tempo of law. There is no room for tears or aesthetics. Bill answers plainly, no embellishing, no painting himself as a victim, no turning others into monsters. He simply recounts events in order, the way a man who has stopped lying to himself speaks about his life. Leaving the courtroom, he does not go straight to Dani's. He walks along the canal, thinking of a future that must be rebuilt with better wood. On her balcony in a new apartment, Dani watches the traffic flow like hot arteries and asks whether she has the courage to open her heart once more to the man who once left it bruised. She understands that if they return to each other, they must sign an invisible contract. Do not say the easy thing just to survive today. Do not take shortcuts only because they are less windy. Do not borrow old hurt to justify new mistakes. On a parallel road, Andre picks up Ashley after therapy. They do not need promises. They need a new work schedule, clear boundaries, a self-care plan more concrete than any romantic soundtrack. They are not a perfect couple. They are two survivors learning to walk again, neither running out of pride nor freezing out of fear. The stories of the four converge like rivers at a confluence. Bill and Dani may find their way back, but only if he proves his remorse is not a reflex to being betrayed by another version of himself. Only if she admits the wound in her heart is not the end, but the departure point for a more grown love. Andre and Ashley may draw closer, but only if they let tenderness precede ego and truth precede the need for a beautiful ending. As for Haley and Randy, whatever the legal outcome, their masks have fallen. The question, did Haley love Bill? Needs no answer. Reality has already replied in statistics, in money trails, in email histories, in long nights waiting for toxicology results. On a late season day, when yellow leaves carpet the road into Fairmont Crest, Dani opens the door when Bill knocks. There are no fireworks, no music, only the smell of hot tea and a sigh laid down like a heavy suitcase. They sit without rushing to touch and tell each other what they have done to become people capable of loving again. Outside, the wind sweeps the last leaves from the steps, revealing the hard stone beneath. Inside, they begin to negotiate a future that can no longer rely on luck. The story does not end with a kiss. It ends with a map marked with checkpoints of trust, with a list of commitments as specific as clauses, with a reminder that love does not save people. Only people willing to change can save love. Elsewhere, Andre smiles faintly when he sees Ashley choose what she wants to eat after years of ordering by someone else's habit. In that moment, he understands that you never keep someone by binding them, but by standing beside them as they reclaim themselves. From here, the familiar loops of tragedy may still lurk at the road's end, but these four have learned to read the signs. If another storm comes, they will know to turn down the music, tie the lines tight, and choose to stay in a house built of real wood. the kind that creaks at night but does not break. Because in the end, what makes a reunion worth having is not a blazing embrace on the doorstep, but the ability to endure together after the lights have gone out, after the narrator has left, and after there is no one left to blame but oneself. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. All the content I make is just speculation and personal sharing. If you find the video interesting and useful, please support me with a like and leave a comment. If you have better ideas or more interesting speculations, please share them in the comments section for everyone to discuss. I appreciate all your contributions and support. Sincerely, thank you.